Hey, beautiful people. Um, Something I want to share with you this morning as I was gently tending to my client emails. There was such a profound question. I thought, "Do you know what? This question really does need to be shared within a video." The question is, how do you know if it's spirit or yourself when it comes to contact and when it comes to receiving guidance or having answers? I think that's a really, really brilliant and beautiful, profound question. It's a question that's come up within consultations as well. One of the things that I gently forge and nurture within my work is the ability to help identify the difference between yourself, the difference between spirit, contact, intuition, which is different again. Yeah, you got contact, that's been received. People say, oh, when you make contact, when you do a consultation / reading, I see these as consultations beyond readings, but when you do and perform words, people use incredible wording. Language is everything. Language is absolutely what we are all about. Perform, that to me is like a question mark as well. Do you just kind of like go to them? It's not about us going to them. That to me is a ridiculous notion that we've got the ability to go to them. Okay, it is the fact that we receive them in humility and in grace. They come to us. So I gently within the work gently forge and nurture within the work the ability to help identify the difference between yourself, spirit, contact that is received, and then intuition, which is a whole nother thing. That's us perceiving, which is different to receiving. And all these many years later, this 27 years now, you're seeing the sharp end of all those years, is that I'm blessed to be able to identify the difference between what is being received and what we're feeling into. That's contact, and then we've got ourselves feeling into, which is intuition. And then we can have fear, so that uncomfortable feeling sitting there in your gut, or that feeling of feeling anxious, is that an answer or is that a fear response? So when you ask yourself a question, you'll typically get one or two responses back. An intuitive knowing for most people, then you could have contact, which is where I like to go, because the contact, once I absolutely know that is contact happening, then I know that it's going to be discerned. That's going to be rock solid, discerned on objective information. So quite often within a consultation, I'm listening to my client, I'm feeling into what they're saying, but I'm discerning through the objectivity of the contact, which is why we can get into some really deep truths when we work the way we do. So it's kind of knowing that you'll get typically one or two responses back when you ask yourself a question. You get an intuitive knowing, or you can get that kind of knotted up feeling, that sinking feeling, that anxious feeling, and that's like, oh my god, is that an answer or is it fear? Is it a fear response? The deeper and the larger the decision is, the deeper and larger the question is, the more common it is for you, your fears or anxieties to surface and arise. And that's why we want to absolutely keep fostering a sense of self and leaning into the contact, and then being able to discern. So knowing the difference between yourself, your fear, anxiety, and we live in a society that is absolutely completely effed up, that is constantly messaging fear and triggering people into fight and flight. You know, people's adrenals, they're absolutely, you know, buried, you know, through lack of time, in fight and flight and survival. You know, it's how effed up. I think, you know, hundreds of years from now, we could be looking back and thinking how barbaric all of this is, the way that we have been living. You know, it feels very primitive. We might as well be bashing rocks together. Really and truthfully, you know, like the whole system is needing to be rewired from the ground up. But you know what? Change is afoot. But we live, what I'm getting to, without absolutely going into that rabbit hole, but what I'm getting to is the fact that we live in a time where that fight and flight is constantly be triggered, so it's hard to discern. You know, I am, you know, going through some huge shifts myself. I'm absolutely, as I've communicated, shared in previous recent videos, that I feel this real drive to strip my work back to the very core of where all this started at, which was mediumship, that then went on to holistic mediumship. Holistic mediumship, you know, it is at the heart of everything I do, and this kind of urge to strip everything back to that, and then the rest of the time, you know, I feel I'm being pulled on a quite a special, incredible journey, because I think that it is very, very important that within these times that we're living in, that we are cutting different pathways through life that you know, really bring about the importance of grabbing hold of life fully and living with joy. Joy should not be joy should not be a luxury. It really should not be a luxury. So some of what I'm moving into is about kind of like, at the heart of it, real deep simplicity, and then from that space, you know, cutting a pathway of deep joy and freedom and kind of adventure, all entwined into that. Those of you that are not following me on Instagram, if you are following me on Instagram, if you kind of keep following that Instagram, you'll see a story unfold, especially in this time. And as we cut this video, it's in early October 2023. So yeah, the more common and the more larger the decision is, the more common it is for you to feel that fear or anxiety, for them to surface and arrive. You know, fear is essential. It's hardwired. It is designed to keep us safe. Yet we live within a society that is often fueling that fear, triggering that fight and flight, leaving so many people fragmented and exhausted. And I think that's the thing for me going forwards. I really want to become an ambassador for living a life that is, you know, not buried in that exhaustion, and in that kind of like fight and flight. We don't want to be making our life decisions based on fear, do we? It is necessary to take risk at times to live a fulfilling life. And intuition is a subtle inner compass. The more we get that sense of self, the more that inner compass can really come alive for us. It is the pathway also to spirit. Fear and anxiety are persistent. They're urgent. You know, they move us into fight and flight. That's the adrenal response. Okay, so fear and anxiety are persistent, they're urgent, and they engage the nervous system. Anxiety asks questions like, what if something bad will happen? Intuition and contact feels more sure, more grounded, more precise, and often more subtle, but it has this encompassing feeling around it, this feeling that kind of envelopes you. So how does your body and energy respond? Is it expanding or is it retracting? That's the thing. Is it expanding or is it retracting? And that is a signpost to the answers. Intuition can often be like an energetic nudge. That, you know, the thing is, we are constantly receiving information. So when we think about that, you know, you kind of land on a question, you land on a decision, you're trying to move your way through something. When you get this expansive feeling around it, that to me is what we call a body response. That could be a clear yes. And we get a retracting feeling, a pushback, that could be the opposite. You know, so it's looking that, you know, that intuition is like an energetic nudge, and we are constantly receiving information. So it is about nourishing a strong sense of self by understanding what is and is not your energy is the key to spirit contact and communication. So for instance, you walk into a room, and before walking into that room you got a really clear sense that you were feeling peaceful, that everything was kind of feeling just kind of like quite neutral. You walk into the room, you're sitting with a few people, and within moments you start to feel anxious. I often say to people it's discerning what is your energy and what is the energy you're feeling into picking up. And right now in these times, the collective energy is really, really fragmented. It is actually quite traumatized. So it is really key that we do those things that replenish us, refill us back up, allowing us to move through these times. And really key and essential for any of you that are light workers, any of you that are in service to others, and that comes in a whole array of forms. But it is really key, you know, those things that, you know, going wild swimming, walking through the forest, up in the mountains, cycling, whatever it is that resets you and puts you into a place of replenishment, because we also live in a society that is constant output. Input is not just required, it is essential. Okay, so nourishing a strong sense of self by understanding what is and what is not your energy is absolutely key to spirit contact and the key to communication. You can then tell the difference, tongue-tied, you can tell the difference between your energy and others. When we nurture that sense of self, you can use those physical senses to pick up on energetic impressions all of the time. Intuition is so instinctive, it lives within the body, which is why it's key to also replenish, because there's constant output, and what we need is nourishing and input. You know, nature, for instance, when you spend time with her, and she's been an incredible teacher to me. Go and follow my Instagram, you'll see why. Okay, it's starting to take hold. I'm starting to kind of paint that picture for you all. She's an incredible teacher, but she asks for very little. yet she gives so much. And one thing that she does is she will return you back to center. She will replenish you, which is why, you know, I try to give back to her in the ways that I can. But it is, you know, intuition is instinctive. It lives within the body. You know, think of your intuition as a relationship. It takes time to build trust. By listening to your intuition, you affirm it and you build trust with yourself. This builds over time, and eventually this brain this will get the message that it's safe to listen to your inner guidance. From there, intuition turns into conviction, into knowing, and that is the pathway to solid, healthy spirit contact. There you are, guys. I hope you've enjoyed that. A lot more of that coming over the coming weeks and months as we begin to shift into this change that I am also going through. And as always, sending you all so much love. Keep shining.